There's one skill, and only one, that has made more millionaires than any other. It doesn't matter where you came from, how old you are, or how much money you have right now. This skill is the biggest lever you can pull to change your life. I'm talking about the ability to sell. You can have the best product in the world, the best idea, the best service. But if you can't sell it, you don't win, period. The truth is, every dollar you've ever earned came from a sale. And every dollar you'll ever make in the future will come from a sale too. Sales is one of those rare skills that people assume you're born with. They imagine some have it and some don't, that it's like being tall or having a great singing voice. But that's a myth. The ability to sell is a learned, practiced, and developed skill. It doesn't require a special DNA sequence or a charismatic smile. What it really takes is discipline, repetition, and a genuine understanding of how humans make decisions. The best salespeople weren't born that way. They started where everyone else starts, awkward, hesitant, making mistakes. What separates them is that they kept showing up, kept refining their approach, kept learning from every conversation until their words felt natural and their delivery felt confident. Think about it for a second. Everything you've ever bought, every dollar you've ever spent, came down to a person making an offer and you choosing to accept it. The person making that offer didn't have some magical gift that you can't possibly obtain. They had learned the patterns, the questions, and the psychology that move people from skepticism to trust. You can do the same. The fact that sales can be broken down into teachable steps means that anyone with a commitment to practice can get very, very good at it. Most people shy away from sales because they attach all sorts of baggage to it. They imagine it's about pressuring or manipulating someone, about making them do something against their will. But that's not sales. Sales done well is about understanding, aligning, and guiding. It's about listening deeply enough to know what someone needs and knowing your offer well enough to show how it fits. This is a skill like anything else. You can practice listening. You can practice asking better questions. You can practice presenting benefits clearly. You can review and refine every conversation until you understand precisely why certain words worked and others didn't. If you approach sales as a craft to be learned, the pressure disappears. Suddenly, it's no longer about winning or losing a conversation. It's about gaining experience, gaining data, gaining understanding. Every interaction is an opportunity to learn. Every no is a chance to ask why, to understand what you missed. The best salespeople review their interactions like athletes review game tape. They dissect every word, every objection, every hesitation. They're searching for ways to sharpen their approach because for them, sales is a discipline. The beauty of this is that it doesn't matter where you started. You can be shy, awkward, quiet, or inexperienced. All you have to be is committed. You have to recognize that sales is not some inherited talent, it's a learned behavior. It's a series of habits built over countless conversations, countless moments of discomfort that, over time, evolve into mastery. What you're doing when you learn to sell is gaining the ability to understand people deeply, their fears, their hopes, their objections, their priorities. You're gaining the ability to connect ideas to needs, to present your solution in a way that resonates. And because this is a learned skill, it's accessible to anyone. You don't have to wait for permission, a degree, or a lucky break. You can start with one conversation and one lesson, then another conversation and another lesson. Every call, every pitch, every meeting can be a rep in the gym of sales, building a stronger, sharper, more confident version of yourself. The best part is that this doesn't just apply to making money. This applies to every area of life where you have to influence, persuade, or guide others. The ability to sell is nothing more than the ability to communicate and connect, and that is the one skill you can carry with you, no matter where you go. Sales is about solving problems, not manipulating people. Too often, when people hear the word sales, their first thought is of a slick, talking person trying to force a deal. But that's a cartoon version of sales, an old stereotype that doesn't reflect reality. True sales is rooted in understanding. It's about knowing the person in front of you well enough to recognize what they struggle with and then aligning that struggle with a solution. It's about acting as a guide, not a predator. It's about bringing clarity to confusion, making connections where none existed before. In its best form, sales doesn't create a need, it finds one and offers a way to fill it. To be effective in sales, you have to listen. Not just hear words, but understand context, emotion, and priority. What's being said, what's being left unsaid, and why? What does this person value? What are their fears? What are their hopes? When you approach sales with this mindset, the conversation stops being a transaction and becomes an exploration. The person you're talking to feels seen, heard, and respected. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. You're no longer trying to get them to do something, you're working with them to discover if and how you can help. People don't hate being sold to. They hate being ignored, disrespected, and bullied into making a decision that doesn't benefit them. They hate when someone treats them like a number, a target, or an obstacle. But when a salesperson approaches with genuine curiosity and a desire to understand, everything changes. The walls come down. The person relaxes, the conversation becomes collaborative, you're asking questions that matter, you're addressing objections openly, not brushing them aside. You're creating trust because you're behaving like a human being, not like a script-treating robot. Sales done right is about aligning incentives. You have a solution, someone has a problem. The job is to connect the dots. Sometimes that means saying, I don't think this is right for you. Sometimes it means challenging a person's assumptions. Sometimes it means unpacking the deeper issue behind their hesitation. All of that requires listening more than you talk, understanding more than you assert, and focusing more on outcomes than on quotas. True salespeople are diagnosticians first and advocates second. They ask questions until they truly comprehend, and only then do they make a recommendation. This is why sales is one of the oldest and most valuable skills in the world. At its core, it's about understanding human nature and applying that understanding to create mutual benefit. The best salespeople don't push people into making decisions. They help people make better decisions for themselves. They illuminate paths, clarify options, and highlight benefits. They respect that every person is making a choice that affects their life, their business, or their future. The salesperson is there to facilitate that choice, making it as easy, confident, and informed as possible. Approached this way, sales is not about extracting value from people. It's about creating value with people. It's about aligning a person's needs and priorities with a solution that delivers for both sides. And because this approach is rooted in trust, it doesn't just make sales more effective, it makes sales more fulfilling, more impactful, and more sustainable. It allows you to walk into every conversation knowing that you have nothing to hide, nothing to force, and everything to gain by serving well. Every dollar you've ever earned came from a value exchange. It's tempting to think of money as something that people just give you because of luck, connections, or circumstance, but that's not how it works. Money is exchanged when someone perceives that what they're getting is worth more than what they're giving. At its core, every sale is a trade of value. You offer a product, service, or piece of information that solves a problem or satisfies a desire, and in return, the other person gives you money. The more value you create, the more you can justify charging. The better you can articulate that value, the more easily people will part with their money. This doesn't apply just to sales roles. It applies to every job, every business, every person trying to make a living. An employee earns a salary because an employer perceives their contribution as worth more than the cost of keeping them. An entrepreneur earns profits because customers feel the solution offered is worth the price charged. Even in personal relationships, exchanges happen based on perceived value, trust, support, understanding. The world operates on this basic equation every second of every day. Where people often get stuck is focusing too much on extracting money rather than creating value. The mindset becomes, how can I make the sale? Instead of, how can I make this person better off? The paradox is that when you focus exclusively on extracting, you limit your ability to grow. You're always chasing, always pressing for the transaction because you're looking for money first, value second. The best salespeople flip this approach. They ask themselves, how can I solve a problem? How can I remove a pain point? How can I help this person move closer to where they want to be? By focusing first on value, sales becomes the natural result of creating it. People sense when you're genuinely trying to help versus when you're trying to close a deal. They can feel it in your questions, your tone, your priorities. They can tell when you're aligning with their interests versus serving your own. The person who focuses on value doesn't need to manipulate or pressure. They educate, illuminate, and invite. They make sure that when money changes hands, both parties walk away feeling like winners. That doesn't mean you have to undervalue yourself or give away your services for free. It means you have to understand why your offer is worth what you charge. What problem does it solve? What goal does it help someone achieve? What risk does it remove? What time does it save? What emotion does it settle? The clearer you are about this, the more confident you can be in charging a price that reflects the true worth of what you provide. This is why learning to communicate value is one of the most critical skills you can have. It allows you to operate in any market at any price point. It gives you the ability to justify higher rates, win trust more quickly, and build long-term relationships that benefit both sides. Understanding value doesn't just apply to sales presentations, it applies to how you write an email, how you introduce yourself, how you frame every conversation about your work and your worth. The person who can clearly, concisely, and compellingly connect their solution to someone else's needs will always have an edge. In a world where people have countless choices, those who understand and communicate value are the ones who win. The ability to sell gives you control over your income in a way that very few other skills can. Most people operate in environments where their earnings are dictated by someone else, a manager, a boss, a pay scale. They have little say over how much value their work is worth or how quickly they can grow. Sales is different. In sales, you're measured by results. You're compensated based on your ability to create and capture value. You're no longer bound by arbitrary ceilings or annual review cycles. You have the ability to write your own paycheck because your income is a direct reflection of how well you can help others solve their problems. That doesn't just apply to traditional sales roles. An entrepreneur needs sales skills to launch and grow a business. A consultant needs sales skills to win clients. Even an employee can benefit from sales abilities when making the case for a promotion or higher salary. At its core, sales is about articulating the value you provide, understanding the needs of the person across from you, and aligning the two. When you understand how to do this, you step out of a world where you wait to be chosen and into one where you can create opportunities for yourself. The beauty of this is that it doesn't matter where you start. You can have a formal education or none at all. You can have connections or be starting from scratch. What matters is your ability to connect with people, understand their needs, and present a solution. In every economy, every market shift, every crisis, sales is the one skill that can't be replaced. Products can be commoditized, services can be automated, platforms can rise and fall, but the ability to build trust and bridge the gap between needs and solutions is timeless. People who master sales aren't relying on external forces for their worth. They're not hoping for a raise or fearing a layoff. They're looking at every interaction as an opportunity to build equity in themselves, in their relationships, and in their ability to generate revenue. This doesn't mean salespeople don't experience setbacks or challenges. What it means is that when setbacks occur, they have the tools, mindset, and experience to adapt. They can pivot to a new offer, a new market, a new role because the underlying skill understanding people and aligning value doesn't change. More than that, sales gives you the ability to control the trajectory of your life. It gives you the power to scale your income, to make decisions based on opportunity rather than limitation. It allows you to bet on yourself and win, regardless of circumstance. The person with sales skills can walk into any room in any industry and create connections that open doors. They can walk out of one company and into another with their reputation intact because their results speak louder than any title or credential. That's why mastering sales is one of the best investments you can make in yourself. It's a skill that doesn't just pay the bills. It gives you the ability to write your own story, to build a career that's aligned with your effort, to launch a business that operates on your terms, or to simply have the confidence that no matter what the world throws at you, you have a way to create income, build trust, and find a path forward. In a world where so many things are out of your hands, sales gives you a measure of control that nothing else can match. Mastering sales makes you recession-proof because it gives you a skill that doesn't rise or fall with the market. The economy goes up and down, industries evolve or disappear, technologies replace roles every year, but one thing doesn't change: the need for businesses to create revenue. No matter how bad things get, no matter how unpredictable the times, every company needs people who can connect a solution with a customer. They need people who can understand pain points, build trust, and close deals. The person who can do that will always have a seat at the table, regardless of how turbulent the world becomes. Think about the periods when businesses struggle. What do they focus on? Sales. What roles get prioritized when staff needs to be cut? The people who can justify their cost by bringing money in. You can't outsource or eliminate the role that is directly responsible for generating revenue. When times are tough, leaders ask themselves, how do we get more sales? How do we find more customers? How do we keep the doors open? The person with sales ability is always part of the answer. The beauty of mastering sales is that it's a universally applicable skill. You can sell a service, a product, an idea, or yourself as a candidate for a job. You can shift industries and still be relevant because the core skill doesn't change: understanding people and aligning value. The context may shift, the language may evolve, but the core principles of sales are timeless. As long as people have needs, as long as businesses have offerings, and as long as transactions occur, sales will matter. People often worry about robots replacing jobs. Automation can streamline many roles, but it can't replicate trust, nuance, and human understanding. It can't read a person's hesitation between the lines or adjust its approach based on emotional cues. It can't build long-term relationships that drive referrals and repeat business. The person who can sell doesn't just have a role in the present. They have a role in the future because their skill is rooted in something that can't be commoditized. Mastering sales also gives you the ability to pivot when circumstances shift. You can move from one industry to another because you understand the mechanics of creating value and aligning it with a person or company that needs it. You can apply the same principles across sectors, making yourself adaptable and resilient. When one market disappears or becomes too competitive, you can step into another with the confidence that you have a fundamental tool others lack. Recession-proof doesn't mean unaffected. It doesn't mean you won't feel the pressure of economic downturns. What it means is that you have a foundation, a core ability that gives you options when others run out. The person who can sell can always make a living because every business needs sales. Every endeavor depends on revenue. The person who can generate it, no matter the climate, no matter the conditions, doesn't just survive, they position themselves to thrive when things turn around. In every crisis, in every slowdown, the people who can sell are the people who rise. Not because of luck, connections, or circumstance, but because they've mastered a skill that works when times are good and when times are bad. It's not about being invincible, it's about being irreplaceable. The best entrepreneurs are always the best salespeople. It doesn't matter how brilliant the idea is, how revolutionary the product might be, or how talented the team is if an entrepreneur can't communicate its value, if they can't win trust, if they can't compel others to buy into the vision, the business doesn't stand a chance. At its core, entrepreneurship is sales. It's about finding a problem worth solving, creating a solution, and then getting people to understand why that solution is worth their time, attention, and money. Every successful entrepreneur you can think of is a salesperson first. Steve Jobs didn't just build beautiful devices, he sold a vision of a future that felt irresistible. Elon Musk doesn't just launch rockets, he sells the dream of making humanity multi-planetary. Sarah Blakely didn't just invent a garment, she sold the idea of empowerment and confidence. These entrepreneurs mastered sales because sales is how ideas become movements. Sales is how products become must-haves. Sales is how obscure ideas move from a garage or a laptop screen into the mainstream consciousness. Too often people forget this, especially when starting out. They assume the quality of the product or service will speak for itself. They focus all their energy on refining the thing and almost none on learning how to position it, how to present it, or how to create demand. But great products fail every day because their creators don't understand that sales isn't an afterthought, it's baked into the DNA of every successful business. You can have the best solution in the world, and it will disappear unless you can sell its value to customers, investors, partners, and employees. Sales doesn't just apply to customers. As an entrepreneur, you're selling all the time. You're selling to your team to rally their belief and commitment. You're selling to investors to secure the resources you need to build. You're selling to partners and suppliers to gain their trust and collaboration. You're selling to yourself every morning when you have to get up and make the hard decisions required to move the business forward. Entrepreneurship is a series of sales conversations that never end, and your ability to have those conversations well determines how far you can go. Mastering sales gives entrepreneurs an unfair advantage because it allows them to control the narrative. It allows them to connect with people on a level that goes beyond features and benefits. The best entrepreneurs understand that people don't just buy products, they buy feelings, outcomes, and stories. The ability to craft those stories to make people feel seen and understood is the essence of sales. It's what separates a forgettable business from an iconic one. More than that, it gives entrepreneurs resilience. When ideas fail, when markets shift, when competitors emerge, the person who can sell can adapt. They can adjust their message, pivot their offer, or redefine their value. They have a skill that goes wherever they go and works no matter the circumstances. In a world where ideas evolve and technologies change, sales is the constant, the core skill that allows entrepreneurs to survive, to adapt, and to build something that lasts. It is the foundation upon which every successful business rests, and the entrepreneurs who understand this are the ones who shape the future.